Hello and welcome to this video. So in this video I will be going over some great teaching practices that you can use as a teacher. So first of all, I want to mention Vygotsky, the famous Soviet psychologist. He has a lot of theories and a lot of work you can look into, but one of them that is really famous is called the zone of proximal development, which is a basic principle that when you teach, you should place your teaching and your content in the zone of proximal development, a place where the student can actually learn something with your help. So you place the teaching just out of reach of the student, but not too far out of reach, just a little bit out of reach, so that you as a teacher can kind of help them to get there so that they can actually learn something. Because if you put the teaching in this zone here, what the students already know, they will get bored. They already know this stuff. They want to move on and learn something new. But if you put the content way far out, so in a way that's really hard, where they can't reach, they will get anxious and they will get frustrated and be like, why is the teacher placing the content on in a such high level? Like, we can't learn this. It's impossible. This is too hard. So you go back and you place it in this middle part here, the zone of proximal development. So if you make it too easy, the students get bored, right? If you make it too hard, the students feel anxiety, they get frustrated. But if you put it in the proximal zone, the students feel they can reach the goal, with some assistance, of course. Also, I'll mention this book here by Bruce Wilkinson, 7 Laws of the Learner. Really a book that influenced me a lot and has helped me as a teacher. So basically it says that teachers are responsible to cause students to learn. If students are not learning, then I'm not teaching. That's a really controversial quote, but really interesting nevertheless. Give attention to the students. Are they learning? Do I need to adjust my teaching method or my content? Am I going too fast, too slow? So the teacher is continually assessing themselves and looking at the audience. Do I need to adjust something here to improve their learning? John Hattie wrote a book called Visible Learning. He wrote many other books since then, but this was a really groundbreaking book because it synthesized the results of more than 15 years of research, and it involved millions of students and represented the biggest ever collection of evidence-based research into what actually works in schools to improve learning. There's a lot of content, so I will just name some highlights, and some of the highlights are some of the top effects that actually make a difference in schools are self-reported grades. So the students can actually assess their own work. And he found from all of these studies that students are brilliant in assessing their own work. They really can gauge where they are at. Formative assessment, the continual assessing of students where they are to adjust the teaching, is also something that really affect and improve student achievement. And thirdly, feedback. So both the teacher need feedback from the students, but the students also need feedback from the teacher. So really good communication is key here. And he writes a lot about feedback. He even wrote a book on feedback. And he says that teachers who want to know their impact are more likely to succeed than those teachers who are not. You know, we all know the teachers who want to stay in their same old ways and never change. Well, according to John Hattie and all the studies, they don't have a great impact. The teachers who are willing to change and adapt their teaching to raise student achievement, those are the ones who are succeeding. And John Hattie also mentions that helping students to become their own teachers is something that really can affect and make the students learn even quicker. Because the students can themselves assess how far they are in the course, and according to the studies, students are really great at assessing where they are at in the course. This is just a quote from John Hattie. It really comes down to not who teachers are, not what they do, but how they think. And if they think primarily that their job is to evaluate their impact, all good things follow. So John Hattie suggests that we as teachers should really go in and understand our impact, not just rattle through material, but actually being sensitive to, am I actually a good teacher? Do I need to adjust something to improve? Another quote, the greatest effect on student learning occur when the teachers become learners of their own teaching and when students become their own teachers. So this is really empowering students. Hey, you can become your own teacher. And I need to mention Black and William, the 1998 famous formative assessment research collection called Inside the Black Box. And this is a promotion or a little booklet that gathers a lot of research and concludes that formative assessment is essential to raising student achievement. So do not rattle through the material and at the end of the semester have an exam. What you should do instead is continually assess, day by day, minute by minute, hour by hour, assess where the students are in their learning process so that you can make adjustments and improve students' learning. So what is formative assessment and why should teachers and students use it? Well, formative assessment is all those processes by which teachers and learners use information about student achievement to make adjustments to the students' learning that improve their achievement. So, using information to adapt your teaching to put the learning back on track where you want it, because you want your students to learn effectively. You want them to learn a lot, right? Yeah, well, according to them and these studies, you should use formative assessment and continually check up on how they're doing. But how do you do it? There are so many ways to do it. Some of the ways to do it is to have open classroom discussions. You talk about topics, and from those discussions, hopefully you will see, are my students learning, or do they even have a clue what we're talking about? You can observe your students when they're working. You can give them small assignments, big assignments. You can tell them to self-assess. You can give them presentations, give them homework, or you can have quizzes in class just to check how are they really doing. Are they paying attention in my lessons? So constantly making adjustments to raise student achievement. That is the goal of formative assessment. But why should we include it in schools? Well, there is an overwhelming amount of research that point to formative assessment. And it points to that it's really central to raising student achievement. And of course, I do have some sources and some research if you go to the end of the video. But seriously, there's so many research articles and journals on the internet that support formative assessment. And I want to mention Ram Prasad and the 3 key processes in teaching and learning. Obviously, his 3 key processes can be applied to any kind of work, basically, but it wasn't specifically written for teaching and learning. But nevertheless, his 3 key processes applies really well to teaching and to schools. So establish where the learners are in their learning. That's the first step. Or it's kind of like a formative assessment. Where are they? Second of all, establish where the learners are going. So we need a goal. Where do we want to take the students by the end of the semester? What are they supposed to learn? Thirdly, we're going to establish how the learners are going to get there. What materials are we going to use? What methods are we going to use? So here at the bottom of the arrow here, where are the students? Top of the arrow. What is the goal? Where do we want to take them? And here, what materials do we need to reach the goal? What methods are we going to be using? These are really essential questions for teachers to ask themselves when they are taking a student. And many students, if you're a teacher, you have many students, but some teachers only are assigned to some or to maybe only one student. This framework of asking yourself these questions is really important. So lastly, I want to talk about clarifying goals and criteria. This is absolutely crucial as a teacher. The students, they need to know what are they supposed to learn. And we need to be really specific. We need to be very clear on what the learning goals are and the competence aims. What are they? And it's actually the students' right to know what they are supposed to learn and on what basis they will be assessed in the tests. And just an example from the Norwegian school system is the law of assessment. So in paragraph 3.1 it says, it shall be known for the student what the goals and the competence aims for the course is and on what basis or criteria they will be assessed. So it's actually their right. And if you're Norwegian watching this video, you can Google vurderingsforskriften to find this paragraph and more paragraphs. Just short summary at the end of the people I mentioned. So Dylan Wiliam is a British professor who travels all around the world promoting formative assessment. Then we have Vygotsky, who was a Soviet psychologist, and he had a lot of theories which has impacted schools and universities across the globe. He has many theories, but one that I picked was the zone of proximal development. And then we have a professor of education in Melbourne, John Hattie, wrote the book Visible Learning and other books, and he basically gathered a lot of research and studies to understand what teachers actually need to be doing to have an impact in their profession. Lastly, we have Ram Prasad, a researcher at the University of Chicago. He mentions the 3 principles for good teaching. Okay, so at the end I have listed my sources. You can just pause the video and you can check out these sources for yourself online. Anyways, thank you for watching this video. Hope to see you again.